Previously on Video Game Hangover. It's a little long for a back-of-the-box quote, but I think it sums it up pretty nicely.
Everyone calls me
there,
Nutmeg. Like, love it.
No screenshots, just an enormous quote taking up the whole back.
Oh, man.
Hello, citizens of the internet. Welcome to Video Game Hangover, the podcast for the 2,000 people who get to be my friend on the PS4.
Ooh.
2,000 friends.
Am I on that list?
Sure.
Yes.
You and everybody you know, Paul. Because it's 2,000 friends
I made
on the
the
PS4. Right, exactly. You're in the inner circle of the 2,000 closest friends I have. Each week on VGH, we'll discuss the games that have been keeping us up late and break down a gaming-related topic. On this week's show, we're continuing our conversation about scalable gaming objectives with one developer's commitment to drop the normal difficulty from their future games. We'll also fulfill our obligation as professional video game podcasters to discuss the recent Fez 2 Twitter meltdown.
That's the comment.
In the Hangover this week, we're playing Shin Megami Tensei IV. Wait,
You got it.
Tensai?
You got it. No. There you go.
No?
There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. The DJ's coaching me through this. Shin Megami Tensei IV, Animal Crossing New Leaf, of course, and Project X Zone. We'll finally wrap things up tonight with the last call.
I like how before the show, you're like, you're so appreciative. You're like, thank you so much for not correcting me on the air. And then you're just like, there's no shame in this game. I'm Randy Dickinson, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Did I say that right, DJ? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What language is that?
It's a bitey episode tonight, folks.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
There you go. Oh, man. It's going to be a weird one tonight. I am DJ Ross, and I'm in Mountain View, California.
Sup, y'all? It's Paul Sandu from Dallas, Texas, y'all.
Y'all.
We're not even drinking. Or are you guys drinking? I don't know.
I don't know about you, sir.
I have a nice glass of Harrisburg tap water.
Stop it.
Just another correction, Randy. I am sorry to pile on, but it's Project Cross Zone, not X Zone. Sorry. I should have...
Only in Canada, though. I don't speak Canadian.
I think that's another Japanese thing. They love the crosses. Anyway, we got some viewer mail. You want to read some of those?
Yes.
We can critique their pronunciation.
Sure, exactly.
First off, we have a response to last week's show talking about diminished time to be playing games, whether we can still fit in the 60-odd hour JRPG. I have a comment on Twitter from Kenji Salk, says the scalable RPG Paul that you were looking for last week already exists in the form of Bethesda games, saying they're as long as you want them to be.
That's very true.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Am I doing that right?
And that last Bethesda game that I played scaled up to 171 hours, so that didn't work out so well.
So you were interested in scaling more in the downward direction.
Yeah, but the point still stands. He's right. I mean, you can skip a lot of the side stuff and have maybe a 30-hour game in there, I would imagine. But yeah.
So for those of us who are not super good at the who made what game, what is Bethesda?
The Elder Scrolls series. Skyrim is the last one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I was unemployed at the time,
Fallout,
so that's my excuse when Skyrim came out. It was a match made in hell. Sweet, sweet hell.
Well, in that case, you wanted to scale up to like 2,000.
That's true.
Right, exactly. You had plenty of time to fill. Yeah. So is it possible to have sort of a very sort of short, concise kind of Skyrim experience? Can you get in and out within 20 hours or so?
I think so. If you 20 hours might be pushing it. 30, I think, might be realistic, just based on the size of the dungeons and whatnot. But you probably could if you just focus on the main quests, ignore all the side stuff, and that's very hard to do in a game like Skyrim. I'm just saying. But yeah, it could be done with a lot of discipline. Something we're all very good at here at Video Game Hangover. We're very disciplined.
It's I've been curious. I mean, and I know people sort of love the Skyrims, but I have not dipped a toe into that because I'm just afraid of the size of the undertaking. But if it can be sort of enjoyed in a more, I don't know if bite size is the right word, but in a more palatable way, I think maybe I would try it at some point.
I think you should give it a shot. Skyrim is fantastic.
Not that I don't have other games to play, but yeah.
I'm going to get you a subscription to the Elder Scrolls Online, and we're going to,
Who, Randy?
A month, yeah.
Oh,
a month later, we're gonna like go to his apartment, and there'll just be like a skeleton in front of the.
A skeleton with a big old grin on its face.
Yeah.
Well, that's my new weight loss regimen.
There you go. Usually it goes the other way. Who knows?
No.
Anyway, back to Twitter. Speaking of side questing, we asked you guys, how likely are you to complete all the side quests in a game before you move on to the next one? Or are you just satisfied doing only the main campaign, staying with that? Got a few answers. First from Trey. You guys can correct my pronunciation. Trejiert? I don't know.
Trey Giant.
That's terrible. Please send me an email on how to say that. But anyway, the comment is saying he loved Red Dead Redemption, but it was hard to go into the side quests after the storyline, especially with the way that game ends. I don't think we want to get into too much detail, but I can see that. I can understand why that might be an issue.
Yeah.
Funsize27 says depends, saying some games only do the main storyline, other games are more like must complete everything. Mostly in games like Dragon Age, where there's a lot to get into. And then finally, Big Maki says never ever move. Wait a minute. So this is okay. Never ever just completes the main storyline and moves on. Must do absolutely everything, usually to the detriment of the game. Saying that Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga has the worst culprit, getting 1,000 Lego pieces. Is that it? Oh no, 1,000 achievement
Gamer
points.
scores.
Yeah.
Man, those games are kind of intense.
Well, in Lego Star Wars, he says it takes 4 playthroughs of the entire game to get all 1,000
points.
Points, or whatever they are. But
that's crazy.
that is quite a commitment to a Lego game.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. In the complete one, that's like 6 different Star Wars movies, I think.
Oh, what?
Yeah, that's a lot of Lego. Those are fun though, so at least you're not playing through like Peter Jackson's King Kong or something like that.
I haven't played that, so I can't comment.
I feel like there's sort of a brick wall I hit, and it seems like it's mostly in Rockstar games where I get sort of 17 to 22-ish hours, and I ran into that with Red Dead. I ran into it with GTA 4, where all of the side stuff is just sort of like, no, I don't want to do any of that crap anymore. Stop calling me. Leave me alone. I just want to know how this fucking game ends. And
that's the mark of a great game.
Right, exactly.
I
kind of have to turn off all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Last week, we found out that, Randy, you are harboring a copy of Mark Echo's Getting Up on the Xbox.
That's true. Yep.
We thought it was kind
Sealed.
of embarrassing. You were
sealed in a steel book.
Oh, geez. Is that like a special edition even?
I don't know. It's just the copy I have. I have no clue.
Oh, man.
I've yet to find any other human being who actually has this game. So it may be the only copy in existence for all I know.
Let's just leave it at that before it gets, I don't know, way too deep. So we asked, is there anything even more embarrassing that you're willing to admit to? Kenji Salk, we hear from again, says Super Metroid. Super Metroid in the backlog still? It's disappointing. But it sounds like you're not too happy about it. You played Super Metroid?
I'm pretty sure I did. I've played a lot of Metroid.
Oh,
that's a pretty good game, yo.
It is pretty good. You should play that, though, Kenji. Whatever your name is. I don't know. Let's keep on going. Funside27. This is actually, no, I'm going to come back to that. That's terrible. The Noise says Skyward Sword, saying that Zelda is probably his second favorite franchise ever, yet Skyward Sword remains unplayed.
Did you finish that, DJ?
I didn't. No, I kind of replied to him saying the same thing, like I'm in the same boat, because I played a couple dungeons worth and I was really enjoying it. But I think it was just a busy Christmas or something. There are a lot of games coming out around then.
I've also heard that Skyward Sword is extremely long, like 40 hours is what I've read.
It's supposed to be pretty long, yeah.
Ugh.
But no, I mean, I kind of completely forgot about that. I remember even when it came out, I remember buying it thinking, there's no way I'm going to get around to playing this. But I should. And so should you, The Noise, and we'll compare notes.
I'm hoping for is it fair to say, inevitable 3DS version of that? Come on, Nintendo.
I doubt that, dude.
No, I don't know. They're not even putting Wind Waker on 3DS, right?
No, and it's like made for Wind Waker.
No, it's like
Right.
I mean, they're doing the remake of that on the Wii U.
Yeah.
But okay, so anyway, the most embarrassing game I think from all these responses comes from Funsize27 says Rumble Roses for the PlayStation 2. Someone bought it for me because I said I like professional wrestling.
Yeah,
That's,
Rumble Roses.
Yeah. That's just an embarrassing game to own. Period. Whether I don't know. Would it be more embarrassing if you had played it?
I think
like
it's
if you
embarrassing.
Had bought
Konami
it for
made it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Konami. What the hell? Come on. Really?
That's why you have to be very careful about what you tell people that you're into, because there are people in your life who will associate that thing with you for the rest of your life. My girlfriend's mother once told everybody that she knows that she likes owls, and now every year for Christmas she gets about 15 statues of owls.
That's awesome, though.
And they are all over her house. And we sort of had to put a moratorium, like no more fucking owls, because there's no place else to put them anymore, and it's no longer sort of a cute thing. It's really just kind of overwhelming. So that's what you get from Funsize.
Oh, man, no, that's great, though, because then when people come over, they're like, oh, man, look at all these owls. I know what to get this person for Christmas.
You are the easiest person to shop for.
Owls.
I just need to find something with an owl on it.
Yeah.
I want to try that with dollar bills. I'm not sure how that works out.
Yeah. Wow, you must really be into dollar bills.
I really like money. Yeah, hey, I'm really sick and tired of getting money. But if you want to, I'm not going to say no.
Right. Just put it over in the corner with the rest of the money.
Yeah.
Piles
next
of
to
money.
And before we segue on, can I point out Kenji Salk's real name is Nathan? He's a good guy.
Well,
we should get his name right.
Call him Kenji.
I don't know who Kenji Salk is.
It's that guy on Twitter.
Are we allowed to say real
I don't know
names
what
on
that
the
name
show?
means.
I mean, people do like to hide behind that veil of secrecy on Twitter, you know.
Well, sorry.
I
knew
Nathan. His name was Nathan. It just escaped me at that moment. Whatever. I'm just going to call him Kenji from now.
Okay, do that.
Thanks, Kenji. Thanks for everyone who wrote in. Although we're not done. We got a few more
there's
comments.
more.
We keep
How long
getting
is this
asked,
show? Jeez.
I don't know. We're just going to keep going. We keep getting asked on the blog for 3DS versus Vita recommendations. Most recent comments from Cobalt and Half Moon Incorporated. Guys, 3DS versus Vita, your 10-second recommendation?
3DS, because I have no experience with the Vita.
You don't have a Vita yet.
Why don't you have a Vita?
What?
Why don't you?
I do not have a Vita because I have not been receiving enough money for gifts for the last 10 years. No, really, go ahead and send me $300 and I'll get a Vita.
I think it depends what kind of games you're into. Can I qualify this? Or do I have to just give a pithy? Okay. If you like sort of obviously core Nintendo titles and really, really like RPGs, because there's been a buttload of them on the 3DS, I think clearly go for the 3DS. It's cheaper too. If you like indie games and sort of oddball kind of Sony designed things, and like getting games for your PS3 that you can also play on your Vita, which is a very nice feature, go with the Vita. It's cool. There's the built-in sort of instant game collection if you have PS Plus, and there is a giant parade of cool indie games that you can play on the Vita now and coming in the future. I think, if you're a good, well-rounded gamer, my advertisement is you should have both. But like Paul said, that requires a great deal of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rub, man. I honestly, I know last year we were kind of harping on the Vita not having enough games, but now I would love to have one. Every time I go to shopping at Target, I kind of cruise past the electronics section. My eye always catches that Vita on display. I'm like, I really want that thing. Unfortunately, I just don't have the cash for it right now, but I'm absolutely interested in picking one up now, just based on everything you just said. It's true. The system is coming into its own now. They both seem like really awesome systems.
And they've gone two very different paths.
I was going to say, the Vita I think of as like having a lot of these kind of smaller PSN like size games on it.
Yeah.
I can't really think of a lot of retail titles I would buy it for.
Right.
So that's kind of a weird situation. But yeah, if you've got PS Plus or something, that you're going to be you're going to have plenty to play on there. Although overall, I'd probably still go with the 3DS just because there's tons of games on that thing.
Yeah, if you're in a situation where it's an either or kind of thing, I think my vote is right now for the 3DS, just because I have not stopped playing Animal Crossing for the last 2 months.
And get the XL if you do jump on the 3DS bandwagon. Don't bother with the original, even though it's cheaper. Yeah. Best decision I ever made was, trading in my old regular 3DS and getting the XL. It's just a totally different experience. I know that sounds kind of weird because it's the same system, but trust me, it's worth it.
And let me throw this out there because I just discovered this in the last couple of days. If you're holding out for a cooler color on an XL, because it's really just kind of been kind of the jewel tone blue and kind of a weird off red color. There's a black one finally coming out in the US on August 11th, 3DS XL. So get in on that because it's pretty sexy. It's nice. It's like a matte black.
Nice.
Yeah, it looks good.
I ordered a skin for mine, so.
Or you could do that.
Yeah.
I've been holding out for a silver one, but the black might sway me. Who knows? Okay, that's it, I think, for viewer mail. Hope we answered people's questions. Thank you for answering ours, and we will be back on Twitter to talk with you guys this weekend. And then one last note before we get into the Hangover. We were very generously given some DLC codes from our friends at Gaijin Games for Runner 2, the new Good Friends DLC that came out. We have a handful of codes, and stay tuned, find out how you can get your hands on one of those.
Ooh. Oh, cool. No.
Runner 2, let's get into Runner 2.
Yep.
All right, that's it.
Oh, and this is the add-on pack that has sort of the characters from the other video games.
Yes, if you love Runner 2 and you hate playing as all the characters that are in Runner 2, you can play as a character from another game using this DLC. So there's that.
Cool. All right, well, let's get into the Hangover, where we talk about the games we've been playing lately. Anybody want to go first? I'll go first. Let me go first.
Surprise, surprise.
It says it right here on the outline, Randy goes first. So I'm just following the outline. I've been playing Shin Megami Tensei.
Yes.
Tensei. Every time now. Thank you.
For the rest of your life.
You could have just sucked it up and let me say it wrong, but Shin Megami Tensei
He
4.
owns a piece of your brain now. You understand that?
So
I incepted you.
This is an RPG. This is a JRPG.
Another week where Randy talks about a JRPG in the Hangover. When's it going to stop?
Stumbles his way through trying to describe what the hell is going on in this game. It's weird. I think maybe I need a few more weeks with it before I can sort of formulate an opinion. I went through a period where I was really down on it. I didn't want to play it anymore, and I sort of forced myself to go back to it so I could talk about it in an informed manner on the show. And I had this sort of epiphany with it, where everything just sort of clicked.
Oh,
and
yes.
I really felt kind of badass and kind of awesome.
Oh, that's
and I really
good.
started to admire the characterizations and sort of the mechanics of it. And it, like, that was completely not present for me in my 6 hours at the start of the game. And then just last night and sort of sitting up in bed playing it for this marathon 2-hour session, having to go to work the next day, it just sort of fell into place. And I went, this is awesome. How did I not get this before?
Oh, man.
I think it's still kind of wiggy. There's a lot of weird things going on that I don't quite comprehend. I think it's very static. It's basically sort of 2D sort of line drawings of characters, fully voice acted, which is cool, and the voice acting is pretty well done.
It's in English?
It is in English, yeah. With a sort of like, I don't know, sort of animated backgrounds, but they're not really well animated. So it's real sort of still. Not a lot happens on the screen until you go into the dungeons and it turns into a third-person kind of dungeon crawler. But the camera's real fucked up. You can't... It's like tank controls. Like you use the circle pad to shift his body, but the camera doesn't move with him, so you have to push X to align the camera with where he's looking, and it always results in some character running up and getting a sneak attack on me, which makes me really, really angry. It's this weird kind of alternate medieval history where samurai are chosen by sort of trying on this gauntlet that selects groups of people, and there are classes in society and blah, 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 and you play this
Well, I get where you're going with this.
Scrappy poor kid who puts the gauntlet on, and the gauntlet basically has an iPad in it, which doesn't sort of fit in with the rest, and you have to download apps that you run on the iPad, and you use that during your dungeon crawling to sort of identify monsters and look for their weak points and stuff.
So samurais and iPads.
Yeah. And then there's weird... other parts of it where you sort of get flashes of a city that have like broken down cars and stuff in it, and I'm like, where is this game taking place? It's and there's a city on a hill and there's a dungeon underneath where they keep all the demons, and I really have no bleeding clue what is going on in this game, but I just know that I've sort of come to a point where the mechanics just sort of gel with me.
And you figured out the gameplay at this point. Mostly.
I think so, yes, yeah. And I was actually sort of itching today at work. I was like, geez, if I could maybe sneak off to the food court for 45 minutes or so and play a little Shin Megami Tensei.
This is it, Paul. This is it. This is when Randy becomes, like, next week he's going to be, like, singing, like, an anime theme song. It's so good.
Getting anime butt posters on Amazon for his bedroom and stuff. DJ, what were you saying? I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago. I think it was you who mentioned that there is kind of like a hump in these Shin Megami Tensei games that people tend to have to get over.
Is there? Was I talking about these?
I thought I read
I have
that
not
somewhere.
played one of these, which is kind of disappointing because I don't really know what to picture when you're talking about all this, Randy. But I don't know. Was that just JRPGs in general?
I don't know. Maybe I was reading a review about this particular game because I am interested in picking it up and it looks really awesome. And of course, that deal that you mentioned last week, Randy, to get that $30 eShop credit, that's going to push me over the edge. But everything you've described so far, it does sound like it will fit into the JRPG kind of feel I've been going for this year. And I've heard nothing but good stuff about this game, so I'm really stoked that you're enjoying it. Even though you don't know what the hell is going on and the story is all over the place, the fact that you're enjoying the gameplay, and that was the number one thing people have been praising about this title, is that the gameplay is very rewarding once you get the hang of it.
Are you enjoying the gameplay, or are you just like at the point where you're not like treading water anymore?
A little of both. I think the thing that I'm sort of just starting to see the potential in it and beginning to realize sort of what I can do that is unique is that you are basically as one of these upstart samurai charged with going into the dungeons under the city and rooting out demons. But in addition to just sort of encounters where you fight demons, you can talk to them and try to sort of win them over to sort of join your side. And then once you have sort of an assortment, a cadre of them sort of fighting with you, you can open up a specific app on your gauntlet to combine. There you go.
Okay.
To combine these
I just
demons
find it very funny that demons
in interesting
samurai
ways.
app.
Right. It's again, I'm still working that stuff out, and hopefully it's going somewhere that'll be rewarding instead of just sort of being blatantly weird and anachronistic. But and so you're sort of mix mastering these demons, and you combine different ones. It suggests ones, or you can just go through a catalog on your gauntlet to look for interesting combinations, which level up monsters, give them additional abilities, and then those sort of new creations become part of your team, and you trade them in and out and stuff like that. So there's a little sort of got to collect them all kind of mentality to it, which I've never really been susceptible to before in a game. But again, I'm starting to see like, oh, I need to get one of these things because I can mix it with this guy I have, and it turns into this cool thing.
That's what I've read.
Yeah.
You get to customize your army.
Right, and those give you different abilities, and you can, as they level up, they can whisper abilities to you, and you learn the things that they know how to do, and it makes you stronger. And so there's kinds of cool layers that are sort of emerging that I'm starting to really have a good time with.
Oh man, it's happening. It's happening.
Man, DJ's like a proud father when he's watching his baby take his first steps.
I'm still in the early throes of this thing, so I won't say too much more now because I'm still kind of clearly I'm still formulating my opinion of it. I've got some travel planned for this week, so I am going to dig some more time into this. But it's interesting. Cool. I feel intrigued by what is going on here.
Okay, when you get back from your trip and you're just like, oh man, I didn't even go outside, just stayed in the hotel playing 3DS. We're going to have a party. I don't know.
That's definitely not going to happen, but yeah. Paul, what have you been playing lately?
In the same vein as you, man. I've been spending a hell of a lot of time, and I do not know why, with Project Cross Zone. And when I first mentioned the game a couple weeks ago, I had told you guys it's almost like I cannot understand why I'm enjoying this game. I'm 25 hours into it now, and I still don't know why I love this game. I cannot, for the life of me, figure out what the hell it is about it that I love so much. Because the gameplay is pretty shallow, I guess, or it's very simplistic.
I heard it wasn't
fun.
great. I heard
it's not.
People say it was actually pretty bad.
I don't know. I mean, it's getting a little boring at times, but at the same time, it's not. I don't know. I'm having a really hard time wrapping my head around why I'm enjoying the game so much. Because for all intents and purposes, I should not. Okay, it's not.
So, like, what gets you to keep opening it up? Because it's on your 3DS. You've got Animal Crossing on there, assuming just running all the time. What gets you to switch over? Like, what's going through your head?
Well, the storyline is hilarious. It makes no sense. It's completely ridiculous, but it's good for laughs. Like, I find myself laughing my ass off frequently. It's just so stupid, so silly. So the writing is excellent, if that makes any sense. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon type of writing, so very happy with that. But one thing I didn't really mention when I first was talking about it, I love the music. The music in this game is incredible because it's like a love letter to Japanese video games and characters over the last 25 years. So it's pulling, theme songs from the last 20 some odd years from random games I've never even heard, and it's turning me basically back to take a look at a backlog of music from the 90s and late 80s and early 2000s from all these games, half of them I haven't even heard of or played. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, the game is just a nice homage to, Japanese games, Japanese culture in a manner of speaking that I just really find enjoyable.
So it's kind of like if you were into all these franchises before, maybe some of them maybe quite a long time ago, it sounds like.
Yeah,
it's kind of just like fan service for you.
It's a total fan service game, and I have to admit, it is keeping me playing just to unlock some of the characters I've been looking forward to. Like, I just recently unlocked X and Zero from the Mega Man X series, and I was very happy to see that. I mean, what can I say? I was smiling ear to ear when I finally got them to join my team. Little stuff like that. I like the fan service. I mean, what can I say?
That's good. I don't really know what to... I still haven't tried either of those demos.
I really don't know why I like it so much. I mean, it's just fun. It's a stupid popcorn flick in a video game form, quite frankly. But the music is incredible. And if you like, 2D sprites, it's got some nice ones in it.
I do like some sprites. It's so funny because it sounds like, video games, on some level, they're all like popcorn flicks, right? But this one sounds like they're very... like, there was a conscious decision to make the game this way.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that accurate? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the game is meant to be like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, pure fan service. You don't have to think at all. The strategy elements in the game are very minimal. You can just basically brute force your way through any of the encounters. So it's not really super challenging at all. It's really, I find it more of a relaxing, good for a couple of chuckles or even a few, large laughs at times type of game that I can just sit back and enjoy without thinking too much. Maybe that's why I like it. It just, I can turn my brain off and enjoy it.
I'm going to be really interested to hear what you think like after you've completed this, like a few months afterward, looking back on it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now, I'm probably going to look back very fondly on it, but we'll see. I'll definitely try to revisit this once I've completed it, and a few months down the line. I would definitely love to share my lasting impressions of the title. But right now, it's a good time, and I don't know why.
Well, it's kind of interesting that there's this sort of, I don't know if it's a renaissance or if this is a newly emerged thing where there are these sort of like winky, kind of chock full of sort of social jabs and kind of very aware games like maybe Project X Zone as you're describing it, or Double Dragon Neon, or what was that Far Cry expansion? Or Half Minute Hero, sure.
Oh, Blood Dragon, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Kind of like self-referential, sort of understand that they're making fun of themselves and of the genre that they occupy. Yeah. And I think that's, again, maybe my gaming history isn't long enough to remember that existing in the past, but it seems like it's a very sort of new thing to do in games, and I kind of dig it.
Oh, I love it.
Particularly if it's done well.
You can't take yourself too seriously, and there is a lot to enjoy by reminiscing about the good old days and saying, you know what, those weren't really all that good, so it's okay to make fun of them, or just drop a few one-liners from the past or inside jokes if you're very privy to the history of these games. There's a lot of different layers for someone to enjoy in a stupid game like this. So, I mean, if you have any inclination, if you have any attachment to some of these characters, I come mainly from the Capcom side of things. That's the company who I am most familiar with out of the three big labels in Project Cross Zone here. It's Namco and Sega as well, but I have a lot of history with these characters, and I have to admit that's been enough of a driving force to keep me playing and hooked and seeing what other silly shenanigans they're going to be up to. So it's really fun.
Cool. So DJ, what have you been playing lately?
So I started playing the next game on my backlog list, which is Analog, A Hate Story. And I only played it for a little bit, so I think I'm going to save it. Plus, it's also, like, surprisingly super dense. Like, I'm really going to have to sit down with it and, like, I don't know. It's tough to just get into for a little while. But I'm looking forward to investigating it a little more because it seems full of promise. So mostly I've just been playing Animal Crossing.
I hear that.
You know how that goes. But something that surprised me, like one of my most recent discoveries, is I've been going to the island more frequently. And this is like the little side area where there's like a whole separate economy where you play these mini games and earn medals for it. And that by itself already felt a little grindy, a little MMO style where you're like earning reputation points towards these different items because you earn like these medals, and usually it's like, you know, what do the items cost on average? Like maybe 20, 30 medals.
The best ones do, yeah.
Yeah, and then you know you have to play all these mini games, and it's kind of time consuming and a little tedious.
Well, and they don't take the dollars that you've been earning. They don't take the bells that we've all been sort of amassing. I've got a house full of bells at this point. So it is, like you said, it's a separate economy. It's a whole different sort of pool of objectives you have to accomplish to be able to get these additional things.
On top of that, you can also grind for insects to sell. I mean, my entire town is built on grinding insects.
Yeah, but then the blood of beetles.
Yes. I have eradicated those golden stags.
There are none left.
Hunted to extinction, but I totally understand where you're coming from. That island does feel like a separate grind zone. It's kind of weird.
But see, so like, I can imagine somebody getting together with some friends and playing those island games for like an hour. And then you probably end up with, so you end up with like enough medals to buy whatever they're selling that day. And the other day, they're selling a wallpaper, which sounded super cool. And I was like, oh, I want that. And I had a few medals on hand, and I was like, I'll just play a couple of these games. Until I saw it costs 100 medals for this wallpaper.
Wow.
I'm like, 100 medals? I don't have time for that. Like, I do want this wallpaper, though. And it was a little weird. It was like kind of a strange, like, I stepped out of the game for a moment. I was like, oh, what is this? Because it's like, Paul, you probably can relate to this more, but it's like in, you know, an MMO when they set these long-term goals, and it's like, okay, this is something you're going to have to do every day for like 3 months to get this one set piece.
Yeah, I've been there.
And I don't know, it was just like weird, and I wasn't expecting that from an Animal Crossing game. Even though I've said countless times, like, oh, you know, I like playing Animal Crossing over the long term and having stuff I can look forward to, but I was just like, man, 100 medals, that's kind of tough proposition for me.
You can do it in an hour if you get certain games.
Oh man, but then it's just like playing those mini games for an hour.
I know where you're coming from, and that's why I got that over with early on in my Animal Crossing career.
Oh, but so what did you? Were you just you're probably teaming up with your wife though? Yeah.
Yeah, just played some island game. I played with you a couple times. Played with Jen a couple times too. Played obviously with Courtney. Amassed enough medals to get, you know, the items I wanted. But you're right, it is like a separate grindy minigame almost, which is the antithesis to Animal Crossing, which is supposed to be, you know, play at your own pace and don't worry about the end game or the end goal. Just, you know, enjoy it as it comes. So it did jump out at me too, but I did try to get a lot of that over with, and now I don't even worry about it. I'm not going to try and collect some of the more expensive stuff. I got enough, bushes and stuff from the island, so I'm set.
Man, I haven't gone to the island a lot because I do kind of feel like it breaks the game.
It does.
That it does allow you to bring
the beetles things.
Yeah, it does allow you to bring too many dollars back to your village, and it does sort of throw off. At least for me, it does sort of throw off that kind of slow and steady pace of revelations that I enjoy in Animal Crossing, where each day is sort of like, oh, you're one step closer to this nebulous objective that is 3 days away. Yeah, and I think having that much money around, having I've put a lot of time and energy into tracking turnips at this point too, which is sort of their version of the stock market, STALK, in the Animal Crossing game, where you buy turnips and the price that you can sell them back for rises and falls over the course of the week, and you have until the following Sunday to sell them, hopefully at a gain, or you lose money or they rot or you lose all your money. And yeah, the ability to go to somebody else's village and sell those off and bring, $1.2 million essentially back to my village and dump it into the economy has really kind of broken that pacing.
You don't have to do it, though.
Did it?
I know you don't. I don't. But I like those mechanics. I like the trade. I like the hunt. So I do like those gamey things. Unfortunately, it does sort of reveal kind of the most basic inclinations that I have about games, where it's sort of like, I want more content, give it to me now.
I don't know, I feel like they definitely did open up, like especially with the island, there's a whole lot more cash flow potential coming from that.
Yeah,
but there's so much more you can spend money on in this version.
Oh, absolutely.
Like there's
totally,
way more like house upgrades and all the projects that like kind of balances out. Plus, I kind of like that it's there because in the past, I would, be playing every day. There'd be like every 3 days I go around and harvest every fruit in the town. It'd take like an hour and a half. But now it's like I'll just log in every other night, go to the island, pick up some beetles, and I'll pay off half my next mortgage.
That's what I did the first couple of weeks when the game came out. I literally was grinding beetle runs almost every night.
Yeah,
but it helped. Huh?
I don't think I did it to that degree, but
yeah, I went nuts. You guys know that. But
yeah,
it was but it worked on two levels for me. One, obviously it would help me build up my town, which was fine. But the grind in Animal Crossing, what I found really fascinating is it was very relaxing. Unlike the grinds that I was doing back in my MMO days, which were actually very tense. There was a lot of pressure to, get whatever bullshit items I needed for the guild or whatever else. That sucked. That wasn't a fun grind at all. This was kind of like relaxed, listen to some nice little background sound, the waves crashing against the water. It actually helped me go to sleep at night. So I would improve my town, and I would get a good night's sleep. So they need to put that on the back of the Animal Crossing.
Some white noise, right?
It was very relaxing, and it was the best grind I've ever done in a game.
That's a good way of putting it.
Well, I think the interesting sort of duality is that you grind in RPGs, or at least the limited experience that I have in RPGs, because you're not ready to overcome some next thing. That you have to level up, you have to get more XP, you have to get better armor or whatever to be able to overcome some seemingly insurmountable objective. There really isn't anything, there isn't a lot anyways in Animal Crossing that feels insurmountable. So if you don't...
I'm still working on that.
Yeah, I got bit by a scorpion 3 times in one day. But if you don't grind, if you don't want to participate in that, it doesn't break the game. It doesn't prevent you from being able to move forward. So you still get to sort of choose your pace.
Yep.
So I do kind of dig that about the Animal Crossing thing, is that if it is not anything you don't want it to be.
Yeah. And I think part of it is just I'm still recoiling from the sticker shock of that wallpaper. But I was like, oh man, this is like a whole new avenue of grinding that I did not foresee. So I guess I'm gonna have to, pace myself on those mini games. And
right. Well, and as with anything in the shop, you have to do it today because it might not be there tomorrow.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's probably not there anymore.
Well, you can get the Club Tortimer pass. That'll help open up.
Oh, I don't want to do that. No,
I'm just saying there is an option. That's the beauty of Animal Crossing. You have options when you think you don't have any.
I kind of like how they put that in there, because when you first read about it, it's like, what is this? And then you just realize, oh, it's just online multiplayer.
That's it.
It's pretty clever, but it's just so weird that there's so much weird stuff. It's
Animal Crossing clan mode.
Well, so anyway, that's what I've been playing. I'll hopefully talk about Analog some next week.
Sure, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, clearly that's what weve all been playing. We talk about other games that we really know. We're just playing Animal Crossing.
It's always in the background,
sure.
Isn't it?
So let's segue into the heart of this week's show. We want to continue our conversation from last week about scalable difficulties. There is an interesting piece on the Zeboyd Games blog that popped up in the last couple of weeks. Zeboyd are the developers of a number of sort of mobile games. and I think probably most famously the most recent Penny Arcade Adventures game. And in the blog they said that they don't want to have a normal mode in any of their upcoming games. And they sort of justified it in a number of different ways and how they were going to break down difficulty and challenges. One of you guys want to take it from there, DJ?
Yeah, no, really, so I read this post, and we'll have a link, but I was like, what they propose is, instead of having normal difficulty, because that kind of lets the player, what do they say, like abdicate their responsibility of what they want to get out of the game. So instead they'd have a player choose between easygoing difficulty, which is more of a focus on the story and the gameplay is not as much of an obstacle. They make like Penny Arcade Adventures games were like these JRPG style kind of games. And then the other option would be challenging, which is more the gameplay is more of a challenge, of course, and it's for more of like the hardcore gamer, I guess, who wants to get something out of it, like really invest themselves in the mechanics and that sort of thing. And then additionally there'd be like an extreme difficulty for those kinds of people, but
what they call maddening.
Yeah. But that was a really fascinating proposal because I'm kind of I just always put the game on normal, and then in the case of The Last of Us, I'm like spending half of the game being frustrated that I have to deal with this gameplay now, and really I was mostly there for the story. But that's kind of an exception. Yeah. Have you guys had this experience? What do you guys? You just go with normal? Do you put on easy to soak in the atmosphere? I'm trying to think of
games that I've picked up easy for. I can't think of a whole lot. Normally I just default to normal and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gone straight into hardcore modes when it's available. But I mean, I do appreciate it when developers do this, even if it's not something that'll affect me. I really like that developers are recognizing that the same game can appeal to many different types of people who can get very different experiences out of that same title. You know, like if you have the ability to amp up the difficulty and really appeal to those min-maxers who enjoy, banging their head against the wall to overcome the objective, and that's where they get their kicks, overcoming a really, really tough objective. That's kind of sweet that you can do that in the same game where you can basically have someone just be along for the ride for the story.
It's really weird that this sort of, like, this decision has developed, just because if they're going to put this, like, imagine if every game started doing this. At that point, like, are you just developing two different products? Are people going after your games like, I just want the story. I just want to, like, click through with as little resistance as possible because I want to find out what happens. And then the other people are like, no, I want to actually see what these guys have come up with gameplay-wise and challenge myself. And maybe they're still invested in the story, but not as much as the other guy, the guys who choose the other option, perhaps.
Right. Well, or you could really like playing games on the maddening difficulty and be there for the story as well.
Yeah.
So, one is not exclusive to the other. I think, in a roundabout way, you are developing. You have to make a game that operates on a number of different levels, and I think that obviously is a significant sort of developmental objective that maybe not a lot of video game makers can handle, or maybe a lot of platforms can't run. I think that's another thing too, is how much can you fit into a disc? How much is sort of operationally viable in a package? So that's maybe that's a bigger objective for a future generation. But I don't think I've ever gone immediately to like the hard difficulty. I always feel like I pursue that primarily to get trophies, because when they start dinging at the end, and it's like, oh, you got the easy one because you beat it on normal, and you got the normal one, of course, but if you want that hard one, you're going to have to go through it one more time. And if I want that trophy, if I want to be able to sort of get that perfect platinum gamer trophy score thing at the end, I do have to go through it one more time. And those are the only circumstances where I've really found myself having to sort of fight my way through a game on sort of crushing difficulty like Uncharted. And even that got the best of me. I couldn't get through that. I have picked easy more lately because there is sort of an economy of time that I am kind of dealing with these days, where I don't necessarily have days and days and days of my life to devote to console games. So I don't want to do a lot of like frustrated deaths and having to replay scenarios over and over until I get it just right.
Yeah.
So I have quite a bit lately, I would say, gone to easy. In fact, in Shin Megami Tensei,
Yep.
Bastard. If you,
For those
if you
of you
die,
keeping score.
Right, sorry. I'll get it right someday. If you die, I think twice over the course of one challenge, you're well, I guess that's spoilery. I won't go down that road, but it does give you the option of bumping the difficulty down. And it is a call you have to make in the game. A character explains to you what the consequences of that decision are, and it does give you does give me specifically the ability to move on beyond a point where maybe in any other game I would have just gone, you know what, screw this. This is not a game for me. So I do like that there are sort of scalable or slidable difficulty levels in games. I hate getting hours and hours and hours into some challenge and realizing that I have reached something that is insurmountable to my ability, and finding that there isn't an ability to make an option to make it easier for me to move on.
I think we've had a similar discussion in the past where I was even saying that most games, are all games that are lengthy and have deep gameplay elements or even heavy storylines, should have a slidable or a changeable scale of difficulty even in the middle of the game. Like a lot of titles, you have to pick it at the beginning of the game. You don't really know what you're getting into, so it's like pick your poison and you're stuck with it. And it would be good if some games could adjust based on how you react or how you're playing, even in the middle of it. If you fail a few times, it allows you to do an easy mode. I think that's kind of cool, and I'm glad that this is a recent thing that's been going on in the industry. Because back in the day, it's like, oh, you want to play Castlevania? Well, here you go. Enjoy getting your ass kicked and dying 50 million times. And at least now we have the option. And I really loved how... And I remember last week I had mentioned that one of my favorite games last year, there was a bit of a fallout because the developers decided to introduce something like this for the first time in the series. And that was obviously for Mass Effect 3. They had like a story mode. And different types of options for players to choose from so they could customize the experience to go through the game. And one of them was just a very simple story mode where the gameplay was super, super easy, and you could focus on just making your choices in the dialogue and all the moral decisions and whatnot. And there was such a shitstorm about this. People are like, oh, BioWare is ruining the game. They're making it for noobs and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? Like, what planet are these people who are complaining about an option living on? I don't understand. You don't have to do it. The core experience is still there. Shut up. Let other people enjoy something else by customizing their experience. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think it's a great development. And people who complain about that, I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense at all.
So the thing that I'm sort of hung up on is like the people who choose the so-called easy-going difficulty. I feel like it's kind of a cop-out, though, because when they go into this, like, aren't you playing a video game, like, to have some of that challenge? Is it just, like, is it enough for you to, push buttons and say, oh, good job, here's the next story scene? Because...
But if they enjoy that, I mean, how does it affect you, though?
I don't know. Well, I don't think I would ever do that. I kind of wanted to at some point in The Last of Us. I keep going back to this because that's the most recent example where this happened to me. And, that's also a very story-heavy game. But I was like, oh, I'm really not enjoying the stealth. And it was, like, the first half of that game is kind of challenging, too. So I thought about bumping it down to easy, but then in retrospect, I would have felt like I cheated myself a little bit, I think. Not experiencing, like, the way they had designed it at the default level.
But you're somebody who enjoys overcoming challenges in games. I mean, I'm the same way,
not
too.
in The Last of Us.
Really?
No.
So what was it then? What was it that stopped you from ultimately, picking easy? You just didn't want to cheat yourself out of something?
I was just like, well, I'll stick with it and see whatever. And eventually, I got accustomed to it, and I feel like the gameplay really added to the narrative aspect. But if you look at a game like BioShock or BioShock Infinite or even the original BioShock, I guess, where the gameplay doesn't necessarily harmonize with the story that well. I don't know where I was going exactly. So, like, I felt like I kind of cheated myself the way I rushed through BioShock Infinite, and I didn't really spend a lot of time with the gameplay that maybe if I had been playing it on a higher difficulty level, like, yeah, it would have been a little more frustrating, but I would have gotten more value, like a richer experience if I had been like, oh, so, I'm going to have to employ a little more strategy here and actually think about what I'm doing as opposed to rushing in guns blazing.
Right. I think that we are conditioned to accept a modest amount of frustration with our gameplay.
I don't mind a little bit.
That's the thing is, I think that we grew up with games that were so frustrating, and the only way to sort of succeed with playing them was through perseverance. And that, I don't know if that mentality necessarily exists in a current generation of gamers, that there are people who don't want that level of frustration. There are maybe gamers who are older than you and I who are into gaming who really just want to sort of have the experience and be able to be part of the conversation about games. So they don't want to replay the same scenarios over and over and over. They're not prepared to accept that level of frustration with gaming. So I think that is who sort of easygoing difficulty is for. I think we run into semantics issues because we go, well, it's easy, it's for babies. And there is sort of a social pressure that we put on that that I think is probably outdated and juvenile.
Well, I don't know if it's as much of a semantics thing. Like if I when I look at the difficulty option, I don't think like, oh, this is baby mode. I kind of think like, oh, okay, so, or maybe just as a result of observing playing on easy and all these games, it's like, okay, this is the one where the gameplay is essentially not important. Like you're just there for kind of the other aspects of it.
Sure.
And I don't know, it feels like you're just ignoring like half of the game, of the product.
Yeah. No, that's a good point for sure. Because I'm someone who appreciates a decent challenge, and it is a part of the experience. I just don't hold it against somebody who may want to try something a little bit different.
Right.
You know what I really liked? Let me just throw this out there about one of the changes that CD Projekt made to Witcher 2. There's a tutorial mode, and depending on how you do in the tutorial mode, it's separate from the game. You just play it to learn the mechanics, but depending on how you do, it'll recommend a difficulty for the rest of the game for you. That'd be kind of cool if...
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, if more games would actually let you experience the gameplay in its, full form, and then depending on how you actually do in those little, while you're learning, it'll recommend a difficulty for you. I think that's a good way to do it, because that way you get to know what you're getting into, and you can make a more informed decision, and the game will also give you tips on how to improve, but at the same time it'll set the difficulty so that you're not going to be overwhelmed just based on how you were as a noob,
rather than trying to sort of commit to that
at the beginning
on a static screen before you even go into the experience.
Exactly.
Maybe you're an hour in and it's sort of going, so how are you feeling? You feeling all right? Is the water warm enough? Do you need, And it does give you the opportunity to kind of dial it in a little closer to the experience that you want to have with that. I think, yeah, that's cool. I do kind of dig that. There is someone in the comments of this post on the Zeboyd blog who mentions System Shock 1, which is sort of a predecessor to BioShock. It's a game I've never played, unfortunately, that mentions that there are each sort of element of the game has a difficulty slider 0 to 3, and they break it down into combat, puzzles, cyberspace, and plot. Essentially, you can set them from 0, 1, 2, and 3. If you set puzzles to 0, means the puzzles in the game are auto-solved. You just walk through them. Combat at 0 means enemies don't return fire. Plot.
That's 0, yeah.
And it seems silly that we would want to play a game where that is an experience, but there has to be somebody in the universe who goes, oh, cool, I don't want to deal with any of that bullshit anyways.
That is really cool, actually.
Yeah, so I don't think I've ever played a game where it is that granular, where it breaks down. Imagine a game like Catherine, which would turn sort of the puzzle elements of Catherine into, which I wanted more difficulty, and I wanted that to be ramped up and hard. And I actually just heard that they've been playing the Catherine puzzle mode at the Evo.
Oh yeah, so good.
Which is crazy. So I wanted more of that, and I wanted less of the managing relationships and trying to talk girls into having sex with me.
Really?
In the game
man, that
and
was like that was the most interesting part of that for me. I mean, that was why I would have played it, I think.
There we go.
Puzzle stuff just felt like, oh, what's going on?
We're both going into the same product with two completely different expectations.
Yeah, there you go.
So you're the one with anime butt posters, DJ.
No. I was gonna say it's weird. I mean, it's good that they have that option. It's weirder when games like tie them together. I forget if it was one of the Silent Hill games. They eventually split the two difficulty, like the combat and puzzle difficulty. But I think like maybe the first one or the second one, if you turn it on hard, it would ramp up both the combat and puzzles, which is kind of arbitrary. Just having like a universal difficulty setting, like
right,
everything about this game is going to be much more difficult now. But I'd like to see more games do that for sure.
But how do you apply a thought process like that? And I know we're probably sort of approaching the end of this conversation, but how do you apply a thought process like that to something like Portal or Portal 2, where the game is just the experience, where the difficulty of it is what you bring to it? Mm-hmm. I don't know. For some people, Portal 2, they probably just are there for the story, right? I suppose that's true.
Some people might be, yeah.
Yeah.
And see, wouldn't you be like, you would feel like you were depriving yourself of a lot of that game if you were just like...
Okay, of the Portal experience.
I would.
Right.
Yeah, personally, I would.
Right. I think the joy in Portal... I mean, obviously there is joy in GLaDOS and the emergence of those stories and characters, but is sort of finally figuring out what my path is, what our path is to the exit. If that were super clear to me all the time, I don't know that Portal would be as compelling, but yeah, I guess that's just... I'm trying to sort of legislate my perspective on what Portal should be, and that's not really fair.
I don't know. I don't mind banging my head against the wall to a certain point, because I do find
to a certain point.
Yeah, to a certain point. If you're not gonna throw me a bone every once in a while, I'm gonna stop playing your game.
Right.
Period.
I want to know that I have options when I get to that breaking point. Right.
For sure.
So, do you guys want to talk about Phil Fish?
Nah.
Do you want to talk about Fez?
Nah.
Yeah. I think it's disappointing that we won't have a Fez 2 to play.
It might change his mind.
Man, so they already released the logo. That's enough. The logo is pretty awesome. I'm glad they got that far.
It is pretty excellent. And I still kind of believe maybe he's just working on it in secret and doesn't want to deal with anybody's bullshit for a while.
I will say one thing, though. As a Canadian, I do apologize for Phil Fish.
Well, he's Quebecois, so I think he's not a real Canadian.
No, he's very real Canadian. Very real. Let's not make excuses here. I'm still fucking sorry.
I kind of like that Phil Fish is weird and people don't like him. I kind of dig that about him. I think we're mean to creative people.
I agree. I mean, I know we wanted to try and talk about it a little bit.
We are. Later. In not wanting to talk about it, we are talking about it.
But,
well, just really quickly, like, you can be a fascinating dude and, you can be inflammatory on the internet. But if you're going to do that, you have to have certain expectations. Like, you got to be able to take it if you're dishing it out.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
Especially if you're freaking inviting it in your feature-length movie. Okay, I'm done.
He did not... Okay, and I'll just say real quick. I think Phil Fish, as a person, not his biggest fan. But from what I've heard, Fez is a really good game, so it's kind of sad that a really talented developer is bowing out of the industry because of Twitter wars and other bullshit there. Yeah. It's not cool, I mean... overall, and it goes both ways. People were not treating him very well, and he's
I don't think this is all on him. I think
it's not just all about him. He's a dick. Right. All right, fine, but people have been total douchebags to him too, and that's not cool either.
Welcome to the internet.
I know, it's very ugh.
But if Fez 2 comes out, we will play it and we will review it. At the very least, I will. That is my commitment. And I will evaluate it on its sole merits as a product, and with no sort of Phil Fish craziness.
And if you got this far and you don't know what the hell we're talking about, too bad.
There have been some really cool pieces kicking around the internet that some really smart people have written about the state of gaming discourse on the internet and sort of what this might mean for Phil Fish and for other creative folks who make games. So I will drop a few links to some of those good pieces into our show notes.
Smart people.
Yeah. If you want to read more, if you want to read something that's a little more sort of intellectual, then he's a dick. We'll post some stories that
we just ran out of time. He's a
maybe
mega dick.
Shine some light on that. All right, last call, because I want to do a last call this week because I'm minus time sensitive. Before we say goodnight, we have time for one last thing, maybe. If you were listening to this on the day that it comes out, Thursday, August 1st, Chicago, and you live anywhere near Chicago, Lollapalooza is this weekend. I will be there. There's like 120 bands, Nine Inch Nails, Postal Service, New Order, Crystal Castles, Queens of the Stone Age.
Tickets at this
They
point?
are so good.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I guess I don't really know how to answer that question because I have mine and I've had them for a while now. But so yeah, if you're going to go to Lollapalooza, find me on Twitter at Randy_rect. I will bring a stack of cool limited edition video game Hangover stickers and I'll give you a couple.
Limited edition.
Limited edition until we make more. But yeah, lots of good bands. If you're anywhere near Chicago and have access, definitely go to Lolla. It's going to be awesome. And the weather looks nice too. And I'll be there and I will bring stickers.
Excellent.
Yeah. DJ, what's your last one?
I'm going to save it. I'm going to keep you all in suspense. We'll do it next week. Oh, but we got runner codes. All you got to do is just tell us on Twitter, hey, give me a runner code. They're for PS3, and we got a few of them. So just tweet us at VG Hangover. This is for the Good Friends DLC.
And DJ, do you have to have the Runner 2 to be able to play the DLC?
Well, yes.
Is that a silly question?
But you absolutely should have the game because it's fantastic. But if you run out of characters to play, here are 5 or 6 or there are quite a few more characters. One of them is invisible, so it's going to keep you busy for quite a long time. Just tweet us, tell us you want the DLC.
Cool. At VG Hangover, right?
That's it.
Paul, what's your last call?
Real quick, for Breaking Bad fans out there, I know there's a few of you. The show...
It's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming.
2 weeks from this Sunday. The final episode's coming, and I was checking out the Comic-Con panel, the Breaking Bad Comic-Con panel. It was really good, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes in case you haven't checked it out. But basically, it's just, a lot of the main cast, and of course, Vince Gilligan, the creator of the show, just chatting about what they feel like, has happened in the show up to this point. It's spoiler-free, and, it's kind of bittersweet because this is probably the last time we'll get to see that crew together. And this is my favorite show of all time. So if you haven't seen Breaking Bad, watch it. And definitely check out the panel link here. And I'll put the link in the show notes if you're a fan of the show. Or not.
Cool. All right. Well, if you have questions or comments about anything we talked about on the show, Phil Fish, gaming difficulties, Animal Crossing. We are VG Hangover on Twitter and Facebook, or you can just head to our blog at vghangover.com, which we just did a really nice, DJ, let me just give credit where credit is due, did a really nice facelift to.
Brand new, check it out.
Yep, let us know what's on your mind. So this has been Video Game Hangover. I have been Randy Dickinson.
DJ Ross still, I think.
Yeah, this is Paul Sandu, a Canadian like Phil Fish.
Thanks for listening, guys. Good night.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.
Or morning.
Sure.
You've been listening to Video Game Hangover. Send your questions and topics to us on Twitter at VG Hangover, or leave a comment at vghangover.com and we'll feature the best stuff on a future episode. This week's music is by Disaster Piece from his original albums Rise of the Obsidian Interstellar and Level. Find these and more at disasterpiece.com. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.
He's all the boner online.
Now I gotta find this other one.